Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Bridging the Gap session. And this is Almas Abbasali. I am the head of education South. Thank you so much for taking out time in these times, which are the special, interesting, challenging, whatever the name you want to attach to it. Before we go on, can you please write in the chat section if you can hear me? And of course, you can see the presenter and see his presentation slide. Just write yes or no so that we can be sure that my voice is loud audible to you guys. All right, just let us know. All right, so we will be, I'll be handing over. So thank you so much. Those who are writing to us, you can hear me loud. Of course, you will be seeing Rauf Ali Jan's presentation and his video in a moment because he'll be sharing his webcam and sharing his screen simultaneously. So just to give you the rationale, the objective why we are having a session here today with you all, you know, these are the interesting times we are in, impacted by COVID-19 around the world, in fact, not only in individuals' life, but in the lives of society and globally, as a matter of fact. Now, in these times, I do believe, and ACCA believes, that it does give us the opportunity altogether to be reflecting in terms of our goals of the careers. And of course, if in the attendees there are students and members and affiliates, and any other people from any accountancy body. So it is a great opportunity for us to reflect, reskill, and upskill ourselves. So in that scenario, ACCA has conceptualized these series of sessions with the name of Bridging the Gap, which aims overall to upskill and reskill in the areas where you are working. And of course, as a student of ACCA, those students who are studying these strategic professional level exams, it is really hopeful for you, and it's really helpful, rather I would use the word, to complement and to support your studies, because ACCA exams do contain lots of scenarios, lots of practical scenarios where examiner wants to really see that you are not coming from a rote learning strategy. So this session is purely overall aiming to extend your horizon, broaden your horizon when it comes to the technology enabling different businesses and startups. Of course, we have our expert today to brief you on that. But at the same time, I'm sure I do look forward that ACC examiners may be quoting COVID-19 in the exams as a scenario and ask you what you think in terms of impacting business and accountant overall. So with that, I would make a couple of announcements, and then I would introduce Rauf Ali Jan. If you have any question, so please do write down in the chat section. All questions will be answered once, if those questions are related to technically topic, then of course Rauf Ali Jan would be answering to your question after 45 minutes of his presentation. And if it's the technical related one, for example, if you're not hearing us, you can't see the video in between. So it may be because of the bandwidth or internet connectivity. But if you keep on not hearing us or seeing the videos, then please do join in again. That would be the case. All right. So Rauf Ali Jan, thank you very much for joining us, taking out the time. Rauf Ali Jan is such a busy person. He is the head transformation internal audit at HBL, and Rauf carries lots of qualifications. Mashallah, he's been learning, and his continuous learning has never stopped. So he's a CPA, he's a CA, he's MBA, Shulish, and he is the FCCA fellow member of ACCA. So without further ado, I would hand over to Rauf Ali Jan and mute myself. So Rauf, if you can kindly show your webcam and sharing your screen as well. Over to you, Rauf.
Thank you, Almas. Thank you very much. I am sharing my screen. If you right now the GoToWebinar says that people can see my screen. If you can just make sure. I don't know if you are able to see it. I can turn it off and turn it on again, just in case if you're not seeing it right now. Or maybe you may have to give me the rights that I should be able to share the screen.
Yes. Yeah, I can see your
Okay.
video and your screen. So I hope students can. Yes, they can see as well. That's good. Yeah, over
Okay,
to you.
great. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, ACC. Thank you, Almas, for giving me the opportunity to speak to our members, our students, and affiliates, and audience at large. This topic is very close to me, and I'm very proud in saying that ACCA and me and we have conducted similar sessions previously on webinars as well before this whole COVID-19 thing started and everybody started doing these webinars online. So without further ado, because we have to finish it in 40 minutes, I'll just walk you through why are we here, what will we be talking about. In the last few years, few decades, we have seen a lot of startups and fintechs in the world. And to be very frank with you, to be very honest with you, we have seen a lot of companies going outside of business. We saw Nokia once, very useful, very powerful, very user friendly mobile phone, liked by most in Pakistan, and somehow it lost the market share. I remember the heading on the front of the news magazine, which came from Nokia's CEO, that we didn't do anything wrong and still we are out of business, because in his opinion, doing something wrong means he did not uh, do anything wrong. But from my perspective, he has to do a lot of research and development. He had to come up with new ideas. Similar thing happened with BlackBerry, a cell phone company which took corporate cellular companies by uh, Spark, and then similar thing happened with Kodak. A lot of other companies you must have seen that which were in the business, but after some time, because they were not doing the right things, they were taken over by disruptors. If you take the example of companies which are coming in right now, like you must have noticed Uber or Careem in the market, and now Airlift and Swivel in Pakistan, they are coming up with a lot of investments, with a lot of new ideas, good ideas, and they are giving difficult times to the already settled companies. In Pakistan, you may not realize uh, that the taxi companies were very big, but in London and in Toronto and in New York, the settled taxi companies have given very difficult times to Uber and Careem because they didn't want Uber and Careem to take over their business. And you must have noticed the same thing in Pakistan, where we have if you take Uber or Careem from outside of airport, if you want to come from airport, you cannot call Uber or Careem at the airport because they are protecting themselves. And the only way to protect against these startups and fintechs are using their connections, which they are doing. But very soon they will be out of the business. Similar thing is happening with Tesla. A lot of companies have started thinking about using the lithium batteries, the model which Tesla has started thinking about. A lot of other startups, fintechs. If I give you a couple of examples of fintechs, EasyPesa is here. Everybody is using EasyPesa or Jazz Cash, which are providing the similar services, challenging the payment market. And all the big tech companies are also starting to enter financial services. We'll talk about all these things in a more detail in next few slides. And as Almaz said, if you have any questions or if you want to talk about something, you can always use uh, we can always use the question or chat box to talk to everyone. Okay, moving on to the next one, next slides. What are we talking about today? There are four items which we'll be talking. What are the startups? What are fintechs? Then we'll talk about what accountants' roles are in these startups and fintechs, skills to focus on. So we'll start by understanding first two things which we are talking about: startups and fintechs. Why are they important? Why are we talking about them right now? What is the accountants' roles are? And if you want to become either the part of the startups, fintechs, or if you want to start a startup or fintech, what skill sets do we need? Moving on to the first one, which is startups. What are the startups? If you look at the definitions are very simple. A startup is a company working to solve a problem where the solution is not obvious and success is not guaranteed. The most important thing in this one is you are starting a new company where success is not guaranteed. Less than 2% companies who gets into the startup business see 5 years, sorry, less than 5 years see 5 years life, and less than 2% sees 10 years life. So you can see that a lot of startup companies which start vanish by the corporate entities which they are challenging. But there are some takeaways from there. If you look at the other examples, it's when people join your company and are still making the explicit decision to forego stability. Just think about this startup is taking a lot of risks. So all the people who are joining in are taking risks with you, so they are letting their stable job go, and in exchange of promise of tremendous growth, startups come up with tremendous growth. And I'll share some examples of startups, as I have shared some examples in the previous slide. And you'll see, and the excitement of making immediate impact, this is something which passionate people do. This is something which makes people proud, excited, happy that they are doing something which is making the immediate effect. If you think, what are the outcomes of this startup? You are solving a problem where solution may not be obvious. You know that you have to start a company where you'll be coming up with a payment solution, or you have to start a company where you see that someone else is not providing the service, or someone else is not providing a good service. Like taxi companies were already there, but Uber or Careem came in and they thought that taxi companies are not doing a good job. Success is not guaranteed as in any business, but startups, because you are challenging the status quo, because you are coming out of the box, success is very difficult. And some companies are doing businesses for hundreds of years, like fintech companies, and you are challenging them, so definitely they will give you a hard time. Tremendous growth. If you become successful, sky is the limit. There is a tremendous growth in this. Making immediate impact. As I was talking about, this is something, if you look at all the people, Bill Gates of Microsoft, or Elon Musk of Tesla, or Steve Jobs of Apple, these are the people who wanted to make immediate impact. Doesn't have to be a tech company. This is something very important. In most cases, we think that all of them have to be a tech company, but a startup doesn't have to be a tech company. You just have to there are startups which are working on the hotel industry, which are renovating the hotels. There are tech companies which are working in the construction business, which are working on low cost construction businesses. So there are a lot of examples where a startup doesn't have to be a tech company. Some of the most valuable startups launched by students. Why I'm fascinated by that, these companies, these are all the big companies you see, and everybody must have heard about them. They were list is very long, but I just wanted to focus on companies which are launched by students while they were studying. So you don't need a lot of age or experience or something which take you, like I have this big resume and I have this many number of years of experience. All these companies, they were started by people who were working in, who were not even working. They didn't have a lot of working experience, and they took world by surprise. Microsoft, everybody knows about Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook. What is the difference between Microsoft and Facebook? Just think about when in 1985 Microsoft was starting its software company, Bill Gates was starting this company. Nobody would have, like, very few people were talking about softwares, very few people were talking about computers and thinking about that, how will we change the world. So they are the early adopters who adopted these things. Facebook, when Facebook was launched, it may not be the early starter because it was launched a decade ago, and there were Orkut and there were other social media websites which were in operations, and Facebook challenged them, and Facebook came out of it with entirely different approach. Like if you take the examples of Facebook's WhatsApp messaging, there was Viber, there was other, so many other messaging services which were there, but they found a solution which nobody else was providing. Similar thing is with Google. When Google was launched, Yahoo already captured the market. Everybody's email address was on Yahoo. But if you notice that today, a lot of people has switched from Yahoo to Google. Why? Because although Google was not early adopter, the pinpoints which they have identified, the problem statements which they have identified were much bigger than what Yahoo was identifying. So they were able to target those things, and they were able to lead it. Time magazine. Time was a startup which was launched by students in early 19th century. They were at that time, startups were not very big, but you can imagine that you are launching a Time magazine, and very few people are like, there were magazines already, very mature magazines in the market, and you are challenging them. Other one is Dell hardware, because I was talking about all the software companies or social media companies, so I thought that giving an example of hardware company will also be very impactful, because you need a lot of investment in building a software, but hardware, you need machines, you need engineering, you need the whole staff who can come and challenge the likes of IBM, the likes of HP, which are already in the market. Some of the startups of Pakistan, I'm assuming that all of us would have heard at least a little bit about these companies. Why I wanted to, like, there is no specific data available for these startups, so I thought that sharing that how much money they have they have raised, would give you a little bit of context. And these money are in US dollars. So if you imagine the US dollar is around 150 rupees per US dollar. So you can imagine that if we raise $10 million, we are actually raising 1.5 arab rupees, 1.5 billion rupees. So it's a big money, it's a huge amount of money. If you think about Zameen.com, it has raised money several times, and it is it carries a huge portfolio of zameens or properties, plots. On their Airlift has recently raised money. This information which I'm sharing is applicable as of September. So I think Swivel also raised some money after that, but Airlift raised $12 million, $13 million early fall 2019. Rosie.pk is another company which has raised some money. Baikia, we all know that it is very important that Baikia should, because Kareem is now owned by Uber, so there may be some changes at the top. So Baikia has a lot of opportunity available. Innovate as another company. Finja is fintech, which is providing services to payroll and other financial services. Sasta Ticket is a travel agency which wants to create a site for where people can go and buy tickets, like Expedia.com or cheapoair.com. So startup companies in Pakistan are doing a good job. They have been in business, and we have seen a lot of movement in recent years in startups as well, like Airlift and Swivel, and some of the fintechs as well. I quickly wanted to run through the startup life cycle so that you understand where are the startups coming from. First, you identify the problem statement. You identify solution fit. What is going to be fit in the solution? Like, this is the idea. Like, this is what you want to do. uh, Once you identify the problem, you start building the solution. You come up with the development part, like how the solution will look like. You do a proof of concept, like if you want to start a Uber or Kareem, you want to run that, okay, how will this work between themselves? Like, if you take the example of Facebook, you'll run it among your among your friends, and do the proof of concept, how will it work. Then you enter into the market. You run it through the whole university. You run it through the whole Uber. When first it launched its service, it launched it in San Francisco, so you run it across the city, and you see how impactful it is. Because when you enter the market, you see a lot of pushbacks. You actually go into the market where you'll have to meet with the regulations. You'll have to meet with uh, customers demand differently, because now you're not working with a small pool of people. You're not working with friends and family. You're entering into the market where you'll see if you have started earning some revenue as well. Once you pass this cycle, scaling and growth, this is where you start entering into the ventures. You start bringing the money of other people in, and you start seeing that, okay, how will I go into the different markets? How would I grow into the different environment, target audience? And then e- either you move back to the development phase by changing something. Like when Google search engine was launched, when they started growing this, they said, okay, let's start YouTube, let's start Google Hangouts, let's start Gmail, let's start all the other options. Which, so either you go back to phase two by coming up with new development markets, or you say that, okay, I'm mature, like what Kareem did. Kareem scaled it to the 20 countries or 15 countries, and then it said, okay, we are mature, let's sell it out to the competitor who's giving us the good money. We are mature, and then you get out of that market. Similarly, I'll quickly cover what are fintechs. Fintechs are they are also startups, but they are very target oriented. They are financial services companies along with technology companies. So if you look on the top right corner, you'll see that you have to have technology, you have to have organization, and it should involve money flow. If you have all these things, you identify what you want to change, what you want to disrupt, apply IT to finance, and then create a competition. You are coming up with a new service, new products, new processes, or new business models. If you look on the left side, you'll see similar example of fintech combine financial services with additional activities associated with e-commerce, sharing economy, business, and big data analytics to provide new added value. If you look at the main things which you will be working on in fintech is efficient and secure payments, better accessibility of financial services, improve financial inclusion. Either you will be going to the markets which have never been catered before. This is one of the very important thing in fintech which everybody is doing. Ideal experience in terms of cost and efficiency, or you may be going towards this experience which nobody else was providing, and that is what Google was favored by other people, or Uber took over the taxi companies, or Airbnb took over the hotel company because it was more efficient and cost efficient. At the bottom left, I've shared some of the very good stats. You can see that $50 billion were invested every year in fintech. So you can imagine how big market we are talking about. Apple has recently, in last 1 year, has committed that they will be launching a credit card along with Goldman Sachs. So you can imagine like it's going above and beyond PayPal or payment solution services like EasyPesa. Now they are moving into the credit business, which is the bank's main business. So if they start doing that, they can target audience very easily. Over here, I just give the examples of few fintechs, payments like PayPal is there, like EasyPesa is there, Square is there, lending credit company, as I was telling you that Apple is planning to launch credit card, but there are credit rating agencies as well, like Credit Karma is there. They are also coming into the market. Insurance companies are there, like I give you the example, Manulife Vitality is there, Slice is there, Lemonade is there, where you don't have to open an office, you'll just provide the service and reinsure yourself. The insurance is a little bit lagging right now, but it will quickly cover as once we see some maturity in the banking industry. Banks, there are some banks which are totally technological bank. You will not see any branch of those banks. They just operate through the ATM machines. If you have to open an account, you'll open the account on the internet, and then if you have to do the biometric verification, you'll go to the ATM and you'll do the biometric verification and all these things. So if you have to meet for the loan or anything, you'll book an appointment, and they have shared offices where they just go and book the appointment. So instead of providing you services through the branch network, and you can see the how much cost are involved in brick and mortar systems, banks. So the whole banks are there. A few examples in there. ING Direct is there. Tangerine Bank is there. Simple is there. Simple, I've given example. Robo advising and stock trading apps. I think this is something which people have seen some maturity in. All the stock brokers have already provided apps to everyone. You can do the trading online. You can do the trading through services, but now they are moving towards the robotic advising based on my needs. Trading and brokerage services have already been moved there, but this is something which everybody is working on now. Blockchain, everybody loves this word. This is the buzzword nowadays. Distributed ledger technology. In the banking, blockchain is being used as a DLT, where instead of keeping a tracker of every service, we create a ledger which is available to everyone, and everybody could be able to see it. There are some companies like Ripple and some of them which are challenging the Swift business. Instead of using the Swift to remit the money from different countries, these DLT companies will be starting to provide those services. There are some budgeting apps as well. This is a new way of prescriptive data analytics, where people are or predictive data analytics, where people are moving into telling what kind of budgets you should be preparing. If you do this, you'll be able to save enough money for the for your retirement or for your wedding or for your travel or vacations which you are planning. So these are some of the examples of fintechs. I have these are worldwide fintechs. You see the arrows, some of the examples which I have given in the previous slides. Ripple is there, Lemonade, Slice, these are the insurance companies. Intuit and Wealthsimple, these are the robo-advisors. ING Direct, Tangerine, these are the digital banks, full-time banking services providers. PayPal, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Android Pay, you call them. These are all there. These are some of the fintech companies. I took it from State Bank of Pakistan's website. So you can see that there are some branchless bankings which UBL Omni is providing. EasyPaisa and JS Cash is also a payment gateways. Outsourcing is there. Infomedries are there. Digital lending, we see those. Digital payments, Finjas, SimSim, we just saw Finja in the other example as well, where we were talking about how they have got the investments in this form of venture capital. These are some of the fintechs. A lot has happening in Pakistan in the fintech environment. You can see this. Now, moving on to the important part. Let me just quickly check the time. Okay, we just have, okay. Moving on to the next part is accountant's role. So you'll see some graphs and charts on the slide. So this is the survey which was done by a CPA firm in US. So all the responses are from US, but you can see that what startups are looking for. If you go back to the first slide, where we were talking about what startups are looking at. Startups are the companies which are which are in cash crunch environment. They don't have a lot of money because they are coming up with the solution, and once they test it, once their idea is being sold, they will be able to grow themselves. Most of the startup companies which I'll walk you through, Microsoft, Facebook, Dell, all of them started from the garage or from their room. So when they came up with this idea, they didn't have a lot of time or money, and they all started with cash crunch situation. But their idea was so good and their determination was so good that they made it through. So if you think about it, you're working in an environment where you have a good idea, you know that you'll be able to pull it through, but you need a very good financial advisor at that time, where you can use the money, where you can go talk to the bank that this is what you have to do, where you are looking for a person who can run the whole department. Because in most cases, the person who is solving a problem, the person who is finding a solution will not be able to identify, okay, have we paid the rent for this month, or have we paid the salaries, are we running short on cash? All these type of things, they need a financial advisor. They need someone who they can rely on, and this is where the role of accountant comes in. So in the new world order, or in the startups world, these are some of the services which they are looking for. Human resources, because they have to hire people. Business coaching. Most of the people who are in the startups do not understand business environment a lot. They don't know the difference between LLC, LLP. They don't know the difference between private limited company, public limited company, what is class A shares, class B shares. So they look for accountants for these type of things. IT and software. If it is an IT company, software company, they will be very good, but they will need help on the, if they are not IT or technology company, they will need some help on these things as well. Planning and strategy. This is very important. They would not know how much time it will take to sign up a patent. They will need some help on that. They don't know if they have to make a financial projection, how much money they need to make. So they need someone who can build a business plan. They need someone who can at least talk to the people who build a business plan. So these are some of the things which they are looking for. Reporting and KPI. This is very important. Accountants normally are very good in financial reporting, but this is not the kind of reporting they are looking at. They are looking at reporting like, if I'll give you the example of technology company like Microsoft or Facebook, how many users do they have? How many clicks do they have? How many engagements do they have? Now the reporting has changed altogether. You are doing the management reporting. You are involved in setting the KPI. Have we missed that target by far? What are the areas where we should be focusing on? Bookkeeping is one of them. Cash planning, we understand. that they will be running short of cash. Tax planning. So if you look out of all these things, what are the services which we can help them? As an accountants, we can help them. Tax planning, we should be very good with tax. Cash planning, we should be very good with cash. Like if you look at the bigger organization, there would be a treasury department to do cash, there would be a tax department to do cash, there would be a finance department to do bookkeeping, there would be a management accounting department to do the reporting, there would be a forecasting department to do the planning and strategy, but you have to merge all this in one. So these are all the services which an accountant would have to provide. A little bit of business coaching and with human resources related to your area. So these are all the things, and these are the percentages: 34%, 35%. These are the percentages which they are looking help in. And you can imagine, you can see at the bottom five, they are all related to accountants, which an accountant can provide. But you'll have to have jack of all trades. You would need to understand all these things, at least the bare minimum, so that if you are talking to the consultant, if you're bringing someone in, you'll be able to help them. Do startups have accountants? This is a very good question. Startups start with a very small business side. So normally half of the cases, they don't have accountants. Although if even if they have accountants, they have accountants which provides them services. They just meet monthly, they just meet quarterly or less, they just meet they just put one staff on the ground and they say that, okay, we provide this service. In Pakistan, this concept is not very practical, but if you think about it, in Canada or in US, where I've worked, in Canada and Bahamas, most of the companies, there are companies which are CFO groups, CFO part-time CFOs. What they do is they charge you like 1/10 of a cost of a CFO, and they just come meet you once a month, and they put a staff member there, help you identify it, and they don't have any accountant on the site, because startups, they just need to book the expenses, or they need to make the business plan, and all these things you do on the phone. And you identify that, okay, if you need a business coaching, let's hire a legal consultant and we'll be able to provide those services. Okay, moving on, which software startups use? So this is important, because if you think about it, they are using different softwares, but for bookkeeping, for accounting, they're either using MS Excel, like 2/3 of them are using MS Excel, few of them are using QuickBooks Desktop, some of them are using QuickBooks Startups online, and other are using like other online services. So either QuickBooks or MS Excel. These are very good tools. They provide a lot of reporting and a lot of analytical tools as well. MS Excel has a very huge visualization data which you can use for the dashboarding and everything. So from my perspective, this is very important for us to learn all these things, all these skills, because startups are going to take over. There will be a lot of jobs which will be coming in the startups market, and we need to adopt to those changes. After this whole pandemic, COVID-19 will go away. You will see a lot of companies will be focusing on going into the technological world, going into the work from home environment. You will see a lot of foreign investment coming into Pakistan, because nobody wants to leave this 200 million population where they can provide the online services to those people and get benefited. So these are some of the important things which we have to focus on. How do they choose accountants? This is very, I found this stats very important, because if you see, referrals and cost of service is not the best in all the cases. Like even if you have been referred by someone, they may go to a person who can offer other advisory services. Like if you can think about it, like you are an accountant, but you are doing the business coaching to them as well. So this is how they find the accountants. First one is specific industry expertise as well. Okay, so moving on to the next one, what are the accountants' skills which we actually need? So let me just quickly see. Okay, let me just close the webcam. Okay, moving on to the accountant skills. This is the last slide which I wanted to present. And if you think about what are the skills, what are the future skills which we need? Startup is a very pressured job because you have left your stable job and you're working for a company which can take you to the tremendous growth. But on the other part, if you think about it, there can be a situation where you lose everything, and it puts you in a lot of pressure, and it puts all the startup owners like chief executive, chief technology officer of the startups in a lot of pressure. Are you able to handle that pressure? Emotional intelligence, EQ, sometimes we call emotional quotient, this is very important for the accountants to be working with. There will be a situation where you'll see that, okay, we don't see any light after 2 weeks, we only have cash left for 2 weeks, and you have tried everything and you don't have cash, or you don't have the financial projections, you are not going in the right direction. And this happens to a lot of startups. It's not an easy business to start a startup, and its revenue or its return is huge, but you have to have very strong emotional intelligence to approach the complex situations. There will be a lot of complex situations where people will be challenging you, where you'll see that your patent is copied, where you may see that the regulations is not supporting you. You may have to switch the environment altogether. And the most important skill in which accountants need in all the startups is the emotional intelligence. You have to understand how other people are thinking, how other people are behaving in this environment. What can you do to think outside of the box and identify that this is what we can do, this will take us to the next level. Next one is communication. I don't know if this is a skill which we don't need today, but in startup, the emphasis on communication changes significantly. Why am I saying that is, you are running a small company and you are talking about millions of dollars. Like for a startup, we have just talked about in the previous slide, like Airlift raised 12 $14 million. We are talking about more than 1 billion, 1.5 billion rupee. How can you imagine that somebody can give you the money for a small company like this? You don't own these vehicles which are running on the road, you don't own anything. You just have an idea and you are implementing it, and you need this money to scale it, or you need this money to develop this, and people are relying on you. But you need to have a very crisp communication with internal stakeholders. What happens is, like when Airlift raised the money and next day everybody saw that Swivel is coming in, you would have to come up that, okay, we have this much business, we have this much revenue, we have these many cars on the road, this is what we are doing, and we'll survive. You'll have to come up, you'll have to change the environment altogether. Previously, your biggest threat was to go into the market and get more cars, but now your threat has significantly changed. Now you have to get more cars, and you have to make sure that your drivers don't go to the other company which may be providing lucrative services, which may be coming up with new ideas. So communication in this is very important. You have to come up with ideas. There will be hardships in financial progress. You will be showing negative results for a very long time. Like I remember Amazon, when they moved their business from book selling business to things selling business, they were not making any money for a very long time. They had a huge consumer base, but they were not making any money. And it's very difficult to convince people. You must have seen, if you follow the news, Elon Musk is on the news all the time, and people challenge him on a lot of things. You missed the timeline again. You said production will start for Tesla 3 very soon, and it did not. So from accountant's perspective, your communication has to be very crisp. You need to understand what market is looking for. Communication does not only mean that sending emails to your juniors or sending emails to your boss. Communication is internal and external, and we have to focus a lot. Like even in today's market, non-startups, I think, being the accountant, I can surely say that we need to focus a lot on communication. Tech savviness, I think, I'll go back to where we were talking about, like a lot of them are using Excel and QuickBooks. QuickBooks is the easiest software. You can take 2 hours of training and you'll be able to understand it. If you understand accounting, QuickBooks is very easy to grasp, and you'll be able to very quickly understand QuickBooks. But a lot of people think that they are very good with Microsoft Excel, and I can challenge you. Like um, there are so many things. VBA queries are there, financial modeling is there, data visualization is there. You can actually create a very good dashboard with Excel. And this is the tech savviness I'm talking about at a very high level. a very ground level. If you talk about huge data, you have to compile millions of records, and I'll talk to Almas, and I'll do a separate session, because this is very close to my heart, that this tech savvy skills which we need, we should have a separate session on data analytics, and how this is very important. But accountants need to understand, we need to understand that the skill of the future, the skill for the startups is being tech savvy. Most of the time you are dealing with are the tech savvy people. You need to understand what tangent they are working on. In some environments, we like accountants, we work on the financial reporting tasks, which takes a month's time, which takes 2 months time to report the financial results. This is not true for startups. You have to finalize the result within a day, because they don't have a lot of transaction. Whatever software you are using, you should just click the button and the report should be there. Next one is business partner. I named it all in one. They are not looking for accountant. They are looking for a person who can deal in treasury, finance, operation, administration, tax, legal. They want a business partner. The tremendous growth comes with one person doing hundreds of jobs. You will not have a lot of bookkeeping to do. Your staff, one staff should be able to manage payables, should be able to manage receivables. Very few receivables are there, but still they will be able to create reportings. But you have to work as a business partner, which is a very strong skill. Like if you ask me, can I deal in treasury today? Maybe not. But if I want to work in startups, I have to have basic understanding, and then you learn on the job. Next one is flexibility. Startups are passionate people. The startup leaders are very passionate. They work on their own scale. They work on their own agenda. If you have to work with startups, you have to be flexible. You cannot tell them that, okay, I'll do it next day or I'll do it in 2 weeks time. You have to available. You have to come up with the solutions, as I was talking about emotional intelligence, which are right fit for them at that point in time. Sometimes they are running on such a short notice that, okay, they are competing with something and you have to work 24 hours to get them the answers. Flexibility, availability is very important. uh, Next one, I named it planning, but anticipation. uh, Being accountant, I feel like we rely heavily on historical cost. IFRS 1, IAS 1 both talks about that. Historic data provides you the most comfort. If we are also good auditors, and audit, if you look at the audit, it tells you that auditing the historic data is easier. But when you're working with startups, you're working as a business partner, you have to come up with anticipation, you have to come up with cash planning, you have to come up with forecasting, you have to come up with stress testing. You may have to come up with 10 different scenarios, that okay, if dollars goes to $1, 160, this is what we'll have to do. If dollar goes to 160, this is what will happen to us. You'll have to come up with projections. So you have to anticipate what is going to happen. You cannot just say that, okay, we are running short on cash and we need some cash in 2 weeks time. This is not how the startups work. They have to go to the venture capital. They have to identify that this is what we are missing, this is what we have to do, this is how we'll be raising the money, and then they will be able to run the shop through. So this is all from my side. I think I've been speaking for a good 40 minutes now, as Almas said in the beginning. So now we'll take question and answers, and I'll be happy to address any questions.
All right. So that was a roller coaster ride, Rauf, and excellent, remarkable articulation of what has been going around, especially before in this COVID-19 scenario. Yes, we have lots of questions received, and I'm sure they are thrilled. So we have first question asked by Waleed Mustafa, and his question is, will FinTech challenge financial reporting function such as IFRS? Over to you.
That's a very good question. If you look at the fintech, and when I was telling you about fintech's type, I was telling you that fintech does not have to be just payment and lending. It can be in any function: robo advising, banking, budgeting apps. Fintech will challenge everything in the bank. Bank will have to change their model, how they are operating. IFRS is specifically a reporting framework. It is not more than that. So fintech is more working on the businesses. They are coming up with operations side. I've not seen a fintech coming up with any financial reporting side. There may be some startups which are working on it, like I was talking about QuickBooks Online, or there are some consultancy services which provide consultancy online services. CFO Group are there, which can provide you services online. But fintechs, they have to work on the financial services and technology company, which mainly deals with payments, lending, all the other banking operations. They can even provide some services like uh, data analytics services. But financial reporting, I think we'll have to look at SAP or Oracle or JD Edwards or things like that.
All
Yes,
right,
Almas.
thank you, Rauf. Now we have Zahra Azam, who is asking, what is the Islamic perspective on fintech startups associated with credit? Very interesting question.
Indeed, indeed. So if you go here, classification of fintech companies, I did not talk about Islamic fintech, but if you look at the digital lending, which is second last from the bottom, there is a example invoice wakala. So fintech does not go into Islamic or non-Islamic until it is needed. Like Easy Paisa, nobody challenges Easy Paisa that it is an Islamic product or non-Islamic product, because they don't give you interest on that. You make a payment, you receive a payment, so there is no cash involvement. They charge you fee, so nobody challenges them. But there are some services, like if you look at Invoice Wakala, which I'm hoping that you'll be able to see on my screen on the second last from the bottom. Invoice Wakala is an Islamic product, and they are providing the Islamic product where you can basically discount the invoicing, and you can look at the invoice, big invoicing things which are working in over here. In Pakistan, this is the only example which I see. But if I look at the fintechs outside of Pakistan, like my previous job was in Canada, and in Canada, there is a huge Muslim population which looks for Islamic mortgages and things like that. So I have seen some work going on the fintech environment on Islamic world there, but because the regulations are very big, and to become an Islamic thing, you have to have the full cycle, end-to-end things which is related to Islamic. It would be a bit of a challenge until you come up with things like that, invoice wakala or credit reporting, which is there is no question about the Islamic or interest rates. Hope I answered it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And Zahib, all right, just hang on for a while. Okay, Zahib Hanan is asking, where will fintech be standing in next decade? I think some of the answer of this question has come out from your presentation, but you still would like to answer briefly on this, Rauf?
Yes, sure. If you look at the startups and fintechs, I gave an example of a startup from 1890s, from the late 19th century. And then if you look at the startups in last 10, 15 years, we have seen significant number of startups and fintechs. When I was in my last job in 2016, the board of one of the GSIB bank. GSIB bank is globally systematically important bank. Like this is a bank. There are top 30 banks which they identify at GSIB. So one of those banks board meeting was discussing like the most important threat to them is fintech. So I'm talking about the board of one of the largest bank, which whose balance sheet is in trillions of dollars, and they were talking about like their biggest threat is not interest rate, their biggest threat is not something else, their biggest threat is fintech. So they see that they will lose their business to fintech. And if you look at Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase's investments, they are investing in fintechs like in huge billions of dollars. So uh, with this, I think I have addressed your question that whether fintech will be a separate thing from banks or not, but fintech will be a separate thing. I have no question about it in my mind.
Right, that's great, Rauf. We have Daniel Akbar who's asking, and we have another very interesting question, and that shows a fear, which is that accounting softwares will be replacing accountants in real life. Is it so?
Uh, if you look at the jobs which, if you go to LinkedIn or if you go to Google and search the jobs which will be vanished in next 10 years, you will see that auditing and accounting jobs are there which will be vanished in next 10 years, and they have given a percentage somewhere less than 50%. It's not in the top 10 jobs which will be vanished. But if you take the example 10 years ago, when I left Pakistan and I started working in Bahamas, I saw that the day-to-day task or less skillful jobs were being transferred to Philippines and India. Auditor's job were being transferred to Philippines and India. And then we saw, when I moved to Canada, I saw that those tasks which are um, repetitive, like sending a confirmation for auditing purposes, doing the reporting for auditing purposes, they were all automated. So whether you realized it or not, things are happening which are already automating the jobs which accountants are doing. I remember when we used to audit a small company, there were 6 or 7 people who used to go audit a small company. And when I audited one of the largest insurance companies in the world, we only had a team of 20-25 people. So there are a lot of things which we have automated, and there will be a lot of things which we will be automating. So the thing which I was telling about tech savviness, the thing which I was telling about the skills which we need in future, we'll have to work on all these things to be relevant, to stay relevant. And uh, I never fear that I will lose my job, because as Almas said, that I kept learning all my life. And if you keep learning and if you keep adopting things, you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you, Rauf. And I would invite you all to go and read about the growth mindset, which is a concept developed by Dr. Carol Dweck, where she mentions what absolutely mentioned by Rauf. If you keep on learning, if you keep on inserting effort, then of course you will never have a fear of redundancy. So with that, I move on to the another question, which is though Zahib Hannan is also asking that is the replacement of accountant with technology, is it different from our world than the outside world? But I think it would be the same. The pace would be slower. What do you want to comment on that? Comment on that, Rauf?
Um, I don't think that Pakistan is far behind than the outside world. Uh, like, we are doing this webinar right now. We have more than 100 people on the webinar. You can see that people want to learn what is going to happen. Technology is there. I don't see anything which is stopping us. Like, there are a lot of accountants which leave Pakistan and go and work in outside world, and they are successful. So similarly, the ecosystem may not be very good for startups or fintechs in Pakistan, but that has to change, because the people who are looking at the investment returns, they will get the huge investment returns here, and it's only a matter of time that people will start realizing it. Like, just imagine Zameen.com or Rosie.pk or Daraz.pk. These are all the companies. I'll just share a very good example with you. The people who were here and have seen Royal Bank of Scotland, RBS, was acquired by Faisal Bank almost 10 years ago or something like that. I think it was in 2008 or 2009. 2009, I think. When RBS acquired Faisal Bank, the total cost of that was around $50 million. They had branches, they had a very good uh, building, decent building next to Marriott Hotel on Abdullah Harun Road, and all these things. And their book was very good. Credit book was very good. They were earning money, but because RBS was worldwide sold, they just wanted to sell the operations of RBS in Pakistan as well. And that deal happened in $50 million. The full-fledged bank, RBS name, was sold to Faisal Bank in $50 million. And when EasyPesa was doing something and it was going to be acquired by Ant Financial, which is a Chinese company linked to Alibaba ultimately, they sold the shareholding in EasyPesa for more than $400 million. Like, the total deal went out to be $185 million, but they only sold the portion of it. So the valuation of EasyPesa came to $400 million. So you can imagine an RBS, a full-fledged bank, and an app, EasyPesa app, which has no money, which has no credit, which does not earn money from giving loan, which has no interest. accumulation. It's just a payment portal, which is you go to the agent or you transfer money from A to B and things like that. So startups are there, work has been going on. We are not too far from the world which we are seeing, and a lot of investments like Ant Financial, if you look at their growth prospect, Daraz.pk, which is Alibaba, if you look at their growth prospect which they are looking at it, and things which are changing, like if you just look at the like in last 1 month, if you look at the apps which are being developed, Chase Up, which is a grocery store, never had an app. Now they are delivering you. Every other chain, restaurant chain, is focusing on delivering. So which will change the mindset which is here. So it's no, we are not too far from external world. Hope I answered the question.
Yeah, that's great, Rauf. We are at 4:58. So how much time we can go further about it, because we have 10 to 15 questions I can see, and more questions pouring in. Just
I would say that let's stick to the plan. Let's finish it in 1 hour. Like if we started at 4:04, let's finish it in 5:04, because the time is very important and we should appreciate everyone's time, because we can continue it for a very long time, but we should not. And because I told my daughter that I'll be done by 5 o'clock, she's already in the room. So
okay.
let's finish it as
All
soon.
right. That's great. So we have almost 5 minutes. So let's see, we can take a couple of more questions. All
Sure.
right. So in your idea, what, okay, SAP skills essential for accountant?
Uh, I'll, I'll I'll just merge it with all the tech savviness I've talked about. SAP is a software which is implemented. Like someone was asking me, what is the percentage of software installed in the corporate world in Pakistan? And I said either it's SAP or Oracle. Everybody is using it. So SAP software is any skill which you get never hurts you, whether you're using it today or you'll use it in 5 years' time. If you don't use SAP, you'll use another software, but getting the skill will not hurt you. You will be able to say that, okay, because I used SAP, I'm using this. And if you want to get the answer to this, just listen to the Steve Jobs speech where he talked about the linking the dots, because the skill which you learn today may not be needed, but in the future when you'll need it, you'll think about that, okay, why did I get it? And you'll be able to link the dot.
All right, that's great. And do they need to learn programming to be relevant in this? Sorry, do they need to learn programming to be relevant in the future?
This is very important to understand, and these are all the questions coming from the same mindset that are will my skill be helpful in the future? And my answers to all these questions is similar, that it never hurts to have a skill. To what level you will need something, it will be determined by your path, by your job which you are learning on. I'll just give you an example. I am learning a language nowadays. I'm trying to learn a language, computer language. Although I don't need to be, because I have data scientists working with me. I have data analytics experts working with me. But I wanted to do some courses, some diplomas to understand that how do they work, so that I can challenge them appropriately. So it never hurts to have some language to under your belt. But once you'll be in the field, you will see that what helps you the most. Maybe you start working, accountants are working in compliance department, and you see that, okay, instead of working on the language, why don't I work on the anti-money laundering certificate? You may start working on the fraud investigation, and you say, oh, why don't I get the CFE? So if you are studying, if you are learning things, it doesn't hurt to have a very good skills on Microsoft Office. And I'm telling you, a lot of people think that they know Microsoft Office, but they actually don't. Access, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, they can do tremendous job. So if you have some time, start with that, and then you'll be able to learn more and more from there.
All right, so that's great. We have a very different question, which is that as the cash use will decrease, how will it impact the banking sector and the system that is being used in China? The QR system, kindly elaborate the impact of COVID-19 on that as well.
More and more, as I was telling you, that more and more people are moving towards. This is my daughter. Say hi.
Um, Hi.
आप चलो मैं आ रहा हूँ. So she wanted to see what am I doing. Uh, so the question is related to QR code. Once the money, banks doesn't want that you keep the money. Banks want the financial inclusion. But if you read the newspapers, Pakistan's financial inclusion is close to one fourth of the total population has accounts. And if you look at the banks objectives, they want, every bank wants to cater on that. Every bank, when I was showing you the slides on fintech, you can look at it. Every bank has an app. Look at UBL is there, Al Baraka is there, Habib Bank is there, Habib Metro is there, NBP is there, Al Falah Bank, Al Falah's app is there. So everybody wants to cater or tap onto that market. But the most important thing is, and QR code is just the extension of that, because you just go, instead of writing or selecting the supplier or vendor which you have to make payment, you just scan the QR code and make the payment. And it is becoming very common in Pakistan, like Easy Paisa just linked with this Hascall and Total Parco, or Pico or Total Park, when you just go and scan the app and you make the payment. Similarly, HBL did the same thing with uh, Pizza Hut and KFC or Burger King, something like that. So this is becoming very common in Pakistan. Banks doesn't mind it, but they mind losing business to another customer, another competitor, which is if I'm working with HBL would like to gather or grab most of that market, because from banks earn money when there is no cash. Because that's why, if you think about it, 20, 25, 30 years ago, they implemented the plastic card. Because when you are using the plastic card, you are not using the money, because the cash in your drawer is not earning any money to anyone. But if you put that cash into the bank, it's, and you're not using it, or if you're using it, they will charge the fee on that. If you are not using it, they'll earn the float on that. So banks want your money out of the system, because the more money into the system, the less money they will be earning. But more and more you'll do things on the financial inclusion part, more happier they will be.
All right, so it's 5:04 as per my laptop clock. And with that, we conclude. I understand there were still a good number of questions. Is there any way forward, Rauf, you may like to suggest if they can get hold of and pick up your brains about the areas?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and if there are good questions, they can connect me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn at Rauf Ali Jan, so they can connect me on LinkedIn, and I'll be able to address some of the questions directly. They can
Excellent.
send you the questions. If you have the script of the questions, we can see, we can merge them and reply to the questions in like email or something. I don't mind.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll be great if they connect you directly on LinkedIn, because otherwise we'll have to look for the email addresses. But we can do this as well. Let me think through it. But yes, please, students, feel free to connect Rauf Ali Jan on the LinkedIn. And of course, he is there to expand his learning with you as well, with his experience and wisdom with you all. So with that, thank you very much, Rauf, for your all insights, sharing, for your all wisdom. And so articulatively, you share the wealth of knowledge you have gathered for many years in this 1 hour. So thank you so much, and hats off to you. And thank you very much, students and members and affiliates, if you are there. So this is the intelligent use of time you have given. And with that, I'll just announce that the recording, which has gone tremendously smooth, will be shared with you via email. So thank you very much, and all the best for your career. Stay safe, stay at home. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.